Hello and welcome to another episode of Genie in a Podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to Christina Aguilera and the fandom of fighters, getting to know them along the way and everybody that we've met so far, but also meeting new fighters and connecting over her music and her artistry. Usually I love having guests on. I love getting to know all the other fighters. And so today is a solo episode. So forgive me if I seem a little awkward. I think it's this whole imposter syndrome kind of thing that, because I've been putting off this episode for a week and a half. I knew I was going to record this and I didn't have anybody to record with. So yeah, it's just so awkward to hear your own voice, but not have somebody to have a conversation with. And so it's a bit of imposter syndrome, but we're going to make it work. And I look forward to having any one of the other guests on back soon, but I definitely need to practice on being a solo podcaster at the moment. So for this episode, I thought I wanted to do a response to the previous episode, which was about Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. If you didn't see that one, definitely check it out. It was a really comprehensive episode of everything that they went through, how they knew each other, the ups and downs of their complicated relationship. And we had Jake on, who's behind the account at Christina Connection. He was a wealth of information, and there's so much in that episode. So I thought this episode could be kind of a response to that one, because there was a ton of comments, of course, because the fandoms love to fight. It was both Britney fans, but also fighters having commentary, criticizing either. I think what we could take away from that, or even the women in real life, is just that these two women are grown women. They both have children. They have responsibilities. They have lives outside of just recording music. Of course, that's their passion and also their job. But at this point, they've been doing it for so long, they are also allowed to have their time away from stardom. I'm sure it's exhausting just to constantly be pitted against somebody, or people to constantly have comments about what you should and should not do. So this response episode is going to be called "With a Fandom Like That, Who Needs Enemies?" And it's exactly what it sounds like, because it's not just the Britney fans or people just who don't even have stake in it, who aren't just specifically Britney or Christina, who just hating just to hate. But it's also her own fighters who sometimes can get a little bit crazy. I think they're definitely people have gotten too crazy with standom, and they feel like they have a right to them as a person, them as an artist. Where's the media? Where's the social media posts? Where's the music? As a similar thing to what Rihanna is going through. People felt entitled to where's the music at? She's a grown woman. She has children. She has a husband. Maybe that's just not where she's at. Maybe she's not inspired. So yeah, we're going to discuss that. You can be a fan, but you can respect their boundaries. And Christina, I feel like she has done the work, and she clearly has gone to therapy. She knows her boundaries, and she's told us those. And it's all these crazy fighters who feel entitled to her as a person, to her talent. Of course, we all want new music, but she's got other things coming. And I don't know, I feel like I would prefer a surprise drop or wait for it for when it comes. She is 44 years old, a mother of two, and she definitely has already told us before outright that this is the 20% of her life. The 80% is her living her life, her personal life, with her children, and doing things that are rewarding to her. It's crazy that fandom has become so toxic, that even her own fandom, that it's gotten so toxic that people feel like they have a right to her as a person, as an artist, constantly asking where's the music at, or why isn't she posting on social media? Because other artists, whether it be Gen Z or whoever, they're more online or have more of a presence. And so it seems of course, that therefore they do have a somewhat pseudo relationship with their fandom. Whereas these stans, they don't really feel like they have that kind of relationship with their artist. At that point, like, why are you even a fan? With that 80-20 rule, she even told us with that, she doesn't want to be a Beyonce, a Taylor Swift, this kind of like omnipresent celebrity who's just everywhere posting or is constantly in like the marketing aspect of like being an artist. Because like definitely Beyonce and Taylor Swift, they're both artists, but they are also marketing machines. And Christina has already told us several times, so many years, she risked her entire career with Stripped to really bring forward that artist. With Stripped, she put herself on the line, allegedly. She didn't care about the numbers. She really cared about what she believed in, what she stood for as an artist. And so we have to respect that. This goes back to a previous point where I mentioned that she wasn't supposed to be a pop star, that she didn't want to be a pop star, but that the record companies made her, they want to return on their investment. They want the maximum return. And so, Britney had already, come out and she was massive, but they wanted the same thing. They wanted to copy and paste with Christina. So here she comes out. She wasn't really like given the ability or the tracks to sing how she wanted to, or the content to be able to sing how she wanted to. So it was really stifling. Then for her to put herself on the line, and then as if she already hasn't given us so much content in that first debut era. She gave us debut, Mi Reflejo, her Spanish language album, which is very good, My Kind of Christmas, and shortly thereafter she was promoting Lady Marmalade. Well, kind of like, that's an in-between Stripped and debut, but, for all intents and purposes, she was busy. And she also did Nobody Wants to Be Lonely. And at some point, I think it was 2001, she was on that track with Everybody, What's Going On. So she was really busy. And something I thought about was that fans also criticized that she's not so available, that even in like the media, they portrayed her as like the bitch or mean, or that she's cold. And for me, I think this was probably a result of her growing up in an abusive household. She's already spoke about that at length. And of course, she's going to be less willing to trust, to open up to people, to be less warm. A direct comparison would be for Britney, who probably had a better childhood than probably Christina. And so whenever they compare the two, I always assume that just because maybe Britney had a better childhood than Christina, and she was more able to be more warm, to be friendly and trust others. Whereas Christina, maybe came off as cold or wary just because she's had that experiences before where she has been burned by people that are supposed to love you and you're supposed to trust. And that totally like seems why she would come off as cold. Another point with that 80-20 is that she is a singer. She is not a pop star. She is not popping out these albums just to do them. She loves keeping a diary. From those diaries is what, her songs have come from. And so she definitely wants for all of her albums to come from an authentic place, from experiences that are personal to her. She's not just given tracks by the record label just to, have an album out. She doesn't want to put out just a pop hit just to have something out. It has to be something authentic to her. But also there's a scrutiny, because whether or not it does well or is perceived a certain way, the fighters or the non-fighters, people aren't going to be happy with how it's promoted. Everybody's going to have opinions on what should have went down, of how the music should have sounded. Everybody has an opinion these days. And especially with like social media, we all get to see those opinions. And some people's opinions aren't really like worth anything. Based off of interviews that she's had more recently, you can tell that she is definitely like grown so much. She's a grounded woman. She's very mature. And she's even set her boundaries. And so we have to respect those. It seems that some of the fans need to also do some grounding and work on themselves. So I think with the internet, we get to see her fans at their worst. Of course, I follow like a bunch of the accounts on Twitter. It's funny because a lot of people have these opinions and they probably aren't like the most, like, do they get marketing? Do they understand like the industry of like music? And like, of course, everybody has an opinion, but like, do you know how to market a song? Everything that goes into it and like the licensing and whatnot. So here are some things that I've compiled on Twitter or X, whatever. So a lot of people say some things online I don't think that they would necessarily say in real life. So I have a couple of examples of some tweets from some of her own fans, while trying to be constructive, maybe aren't like the most well thought out, or a bit asking for much from somebody who's already told us what to expect. Though they can say these things online, I doubt they would necessarily say these things in person, especially after claiming to be fans. So the first one is, Christina has so many good songs in her music catalog, right? It's sad to know that she's only been singing the same songs for so long. Imagine a completely revamped show with the biggest hits and songs loved by fans in a new guise. Xtina doesn't know how many hits she has. This is so true that she has so many hit songs. To fighters, there are so many songs I would love to hear again, Impossible being like my number one. There are some songs that I would get rid of. Right off the top of my head, I think I would not get rid of Ain't No Other Man, but I think I would ask her to get to the point. Whereas, we love the intro of it, but maybe it's a bit drawn out at this point. Like, get to the point. Like, do the big note, but also continue on. At this point, she's dragged out that first syllable, whatever, melisma, for a long time. We all get that she's an incredible singer, but I think I would want her to get to the point. I love that song. I want to hear a little bit more pared down. But to this person's point, I think it doesn't make sense for her to go out on these festival stages and sing an Impossible or Cruise, somebody off of Debut. But people want to go there. They're going to see the hits, something that they recognize. That's why she's playing Lady Marmalade, Feel This Moment. And then even she's able to throw in things like that weren't such hits, but they were like hits in their own right, such as Let There Be Love. But yeah, for people to complain about the set list, it doesn't make sense for her to do something that is super niche for her own fans. She's doing the hits because these festivals, they don't want to hear the deep cuts. Plain and simple. Whatever next tour, whether it be like a new album or whatever happens next, it would be nice to hear more. Like, what comes to mind immediately is like, I want to hear Deserve or Twice again. Those were like beautiful songs, but also like obvious. But after that whole like 25th anniversary Spotify, I definitely want to hear like that version of Obvious again. Like, that was so special. There was a tweet I saw, and it said, it was commenting because recently there was a change on her team as far as like social media. And it's funny because like previously I couldn't find the tweet this last go around, but previously everybody had criticisms about, believe his name is Marcel, but it's somebody on her social media team, and how unavailable she's been on social media, and why can't, he get her to do more things. Like, she's already told us it's her boundary, be grateful what she does give us, because it is, quality things whenever she does. And so there was a tweet previously that had comments just like criticizing him as a social media person and how he should be doing this and that. He can't make the artist do things that they don't necessarily want to do. But this go around, there was a tweet, and it said, "Not me getting blocked by xtina's social media manager on Instagram." And it's like these people having, like, this is his job. He can't make Christina do whatever she doesn't want to do. They did give us quite a bit of content, and it was revealed recently that he had a hand in like the strategy, and that like even the Spotify anniversary that culminated after a conversation in like their hotel bedroom. So he had quite a hand in like strategy and just like having her like have a more presence on social media, but also like on the internet in general. So people are always going to have comments either way. And then to that answer, so after being criticized for his work and what he's doing and that they needed to replace him or whatever, then there was another tweet that says, "Makes sense why xtina's last social media post was not the best in lighting or quality. It's Marcel's last day at Rock Nation. I'm sure he won't be working with Christina Aguilera anymore. Sad. He was her best social media manager and content creator." While this is true, people had all these opinions of what he was doing in that role previously also, but now all of a sudden he's such a savior. Maybe people just need to be nicer. Also, as I am currently looking for a job, so whenever I was doing my research, I looked on the Rock Nation's website, And the expected compensation for this role, it was the specialist in digital marketing and strategy, was $52,000 to $65,000, which is a ridiculous salary for somebody who potentially has so much say in an artist's career and can really like shape their persona and help them to create content. It's ridiculous that the high end is $65,000. So I'm assuming that was his role, but who knows how much he actually got paid. But for $65,000, I would not be doing it. Except for, unless Christina is going to pay me more, I would definitely work for Christina and I would definitely help her make content on her terms. And then it's just other fandoms coming in. So like this one tweet, it was just a gif of a woman being unalived. And the quote was, "Name an xtina hit after 2003 or get shot." And of course, the gif is of the woman getting shot. But this is from a Britney Spears fan account. And so like there's enough infighting with fighters and having their opinions of what she should or should not do in their career. She already gets enough criticism from non-fighters. So why do we need to contribute to that? She constantly, as we all know that she gets compared to other artists with varying ability of talent. But for us to have our own opinions, I think it's fine. It's just for fighters to be so demanding, it's kind of, I don't know, kind of gross. It's just like, get a hobby, go touch grass, like go listen to any one of her other albums. On that note, there was a tweet, and it was an xtina fan account, and it was a starving dog. I'll show the image above, but it was a starving dog looking sad at a bowl, and the bowl was 2018 to 2025, the years that allegedly Christina has not been active, and then the dog was portraying the fighters. And it was so crazy coming from a Christina fan account that they would have this criticism because she's been super active. Like, she's done so many festivals. My reply to this tweet was go stream Aguilera, because not only did she give us so many videos for that record, the whole album is, in my opinion, like there are no skips. It is a well done album. She really gave it her all. I think actually the only song I skip sometimes is Somos Nada, but that's just because that's my own opinion. But the whole Aguilera omission, it's crazy because she's given us so much, but we're always expecting more. And I say we, but really I just take what she gives us. And in the replies, they mentioned how she's been promising us, "I'm working on my English album for 7 years. We want it, period. Aguilera was her Spanish project, not the main one like Liberation, so stop acting like you don't know." This person is super defensive. I wish them well, mental health and happiness, but I don't know, even in their comments, they're just so defensive. And I love how somebody else put that, "So we're going to pretend Aguilera, with its 5 singles and 6 music videos, plus multiple performances at award shows, didn't exist." And then it's so nice that other people within the comments just "I saw her live 3 times in these years. What the fuck are you talking about?" And I too, she's also played the Hollywood Bowl. This was a great tweet just because it brought up both sides. And it's nice to see people actually stand up and appreciate all the content she does give us. And so what he did put, "She doesn't even talk to us, only when she wants us to buy her stupid lube or merch. I'm getting really disappointed. She could show us a pic in the studio, tease a producer, tease a clip of a new song on IG. Instead, we get soon, once every year." What more do you want? She doesn't need to show us the entire process. She doesn't have to bring us along. The exact same thing isn't expected of Beyonce. Beyonce does happen to do the documentary thing, but that's also money. So while she is documenting the entire thing, she is selling it as a documentary, as a Netflix special, as in the theaters, as a movie. She's still profiting off that. In closing remarks, I wanted to quote Christina's December 31st Instagram post. "This year, doing something a little different. This is a reminder to everyone that you are your own storyteller in your own life. No one else can dictate who you are. No one deserves an explanation. I am evolved enough to know that nothing comes easy and no one is perfect. Everyone will judge you no matter what you do and or what you don't do. Acceptance comes with accepting yourself first, and the difficult journey it takes sometimes to get there. I celebrate everyone taking the time to put one step in front of the next every day in order to build the next version of themselves for the better, allowing yourself grace, patience, and respect. So let's have some grace, let's have some respect for her as a human, and stop demanding so much from our artist. Thank you for listening to this episode, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next one.